Welcome to the definitive UFO news show where we dig into the biggest UFO headlines, the fight for disclosure, and the push for transparency. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. This isn't just news, it's a real discussion. We break down the stories, examine the possibilities, explore the unanswered questions, and search for the truth. No political spin, no biased narratives, just the facts, the analysis, and yes, the conversations that move the needle. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. It is time to dig on in to the show here tonight. Want to definitely welcome everybody on into the show here. Appreciate you guys all showing up for another definitive UFO news show. It is going to be a great one. We're going to be talking about whistleblowers and then also the UFO drama. There's drama in the UFO community. Who would have thought of that? Yes, definitely is. Let me go ahead and see if I can see who has shown up here this evening. Let me go ahead and get into the chat here. We have bright and early as always. Roger Murray had something in here. Roger, put that message back in there, man. I appreciate you showing on up, as well as Danny Hawk. Appreciate you coming on in. Let's see. Roger Murray is here, but he dropped some knowledge like he always does. Appreciate you coming and dropping that for us. Just drop it for me one more time. We got Operation Shutdown in the building. Appreciate you coming on in, Operation Shutdown. And yeah, I'm waiting for that, Roger Murray. Go ahead, pop that information back in the chat. I think it said something about some historical event. I'll just leave it there. Definitely want to welcome everybody on into the show here tonight. We're going to go ahead and get into some really good stuff. Let me bring up my slides here for the night as we get ready to jump on into silencing of whistleblowers, essentially whistleblowers, and then the fighting within, because there is a lot of infighting in the community. If you look around, it seems like it's divide and conquer once again. Once again, who would have thought someone's trying to get in the community, or individuals, multiple potentially, in the community, trying to sow division amongst all of us in the UFO community. It's kind of take your eye off the ball sort of situation is what I'm feeling like. Let's go ahead and see what we got here. We have the number, as always, for the show, 856-843-3444, or that's going to be 856 the dig. If you're outside the United States, which I know some of you are, that'd be 001 first. Then 856-843-3444, or that would be 001-856 the dig. We have memberships available on this channel, just like always. You can click in the description of any video that we put out here. Basically, what it does, it goes to help us pay for these streaming services and keep these shows as high a level as we can get them, right? We're always trying to raise the bar here at the Social Dig, and that's what we commit to doing forever and for always. So any support is welcome. Also, super chats, things of that nature. We'd appreciate that. Any support that we can get here. And before I jump into some more of this, Roger Murray just dropped the knowledge for us. Let me go ahead and bring that up on the screen. August 1st, 1947, B-25 Mitchell crash, Washington State, piece of Maury Island UFO. Wow. Always dropping knowledge for us, man. We do appreciate you doing that as always, Roger Murray. And we're going to get into some more of this. We got the road to 1,000 subscribers. We are so close, yet so far away. We're a little over 700 right now, and we're trying to incrementally get up to 1,000 subscribers. We can do that with your help. So we'd appreciate if you're here for the first time. If you like what we do, if you like hanging out, having these great conversations, please consider hitting that subscribe button, or even the like button as well. Let us know if you like the video or dislike. We take either or, depending on how you feel about it, as well as a comment, right? Because what happens, YouTube, this is what they say, YouTube enjoys or likes when viewers interact with the show, right? So I know you're in the chat here all the time and definitely dropping great messages, but if you could consider taking one moment after the show. Leave a comment. That would be awesome. Definitely. As we get closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to do something once we hit 1,000. Um, the closer we get, I'll take ideas from you guys on what you want to do. Do I need to do a hot chip challenge or something off the wall to eat bugs, deep fried crickets right here on the screen for you? Let me know what you want to do. 1,000 subscribers is a big milestone. Believe it's like only 10% of creators ever hit that number. So you guys are definitely helping us get there slowly but surely, right? Tortoise in the hare. The tortoise always wins, right? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Appreciate you guys all for participating with the show here tonight. And we are going to go ahead and get ready to jump on into the show. This is going to be a quick one, right? So we already know about these whistleblowers, right? The ones that we've had so far. We're kind of on a whistleblower drought right now, if you think about it, right? We had, I think the last real whistleblower we had was David Grush. We were pretty hot for a moment. We were getting whistleblowers like every 6 months to a year. That seems to have slowed down. And you know, we're hoping that we get someone like the guy in the movie Disclosure Day, right? Who kind of just steals all the secrets, busts out, goes on this dramatic chase, and then takes that information to the news so they can blast it all over the world. Hopefully that's what would happen, right? Don't hold your breath, though. Don't hold your breath. That's what I'm going to say. But we know Lou Elizondo's talked about it. David Grush has talked about it. There are individuals out there like the guys that you see right here in this vehicle, this SUV, who are out there silencing whistleblowers, right? They meet them in the halls of the Pentagon. They catch them at the gas station. They give them cryptic messages. I think Bob Lazar had talked about one time being told something about his wife traveling through the desert and anything could happen between Vegas and LA. Some real dark, deep stuff. And if you believe any of the missing scientists, if you believe any of that has to do with those same individuals in the background that just want to keep this thing a secret, keep the lid on it, keep it under wraps, um, it's going to take, I don't know what it's definitely something that you should be concerned about as far as, it's not just you, obviously, it's your family. They threaten all different people around you, right? In order to make sure that you don't release those secrets. I don't really know the best way out of that. I've always said if it was me, if I was the whistleblower, I would be like the guy in Disclosure Day. I would literally put it all on the line in order to get those secrets to come out. Now, what has happened recently, and I'm actually going to go over a story here because I think you guys may have also heard of this. As I go ahead and get ready to move into this here, are restraints loosening on whistleblowers with NDAs? Have you heard the news, right? Yeah, we're going to jump into it and then we'll give opinions after it. As you all may have heard, President Donald Trump came out July 2026. There was actually there was a senior administration official who made news stating that President Trump had directed the Department of Defense and the intelligence community to allow such individuals with relevant UAP or UFO information, quote, to come forward to meet with designated government representatives, ARROW, or President's UAP Task Force, which is Pursue, and have their NDAs abrogated, right? So there's a lot wrong with that. I'm going to go ahead and read something to you, and then we're going to listen to Lou Elizondo talk about this. But essentially, Pursue, which I didn't know what it was at first till I did some research for this show. Pursue was actually the agency that was put together by this current administration to kind of parse through the UFO data and essentially figure out what it is that they're willing to release here to us, the public. And I think I have some key highlights here, key details. These are some of the key details, and I'll go ahead and let me bring that up full screen for you. All right, some of the key details. Witnesses will meet with the first with the cleared officials at the Pentagon's All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, or the President's Pursuit Task Force. Applicable NDAs can be waived during those authorized discussions so people can share information without fear of violating prior secrecy agreements. This is framed as removing a barrier to cooperation with official investigators, which is not a broad public declassification of free speech green light, meaning they can't just come out and talk to us about it, right? They'll be able to forego their NDAs and speak directly to these particular agencies. We already know ARROW. We know their track record, so we know there's a nothing burger there. I wouldn't even waste my time going there to say anything to them. But then also this Pursuit Office, which is opened up once again by the president and is another government agency. So it's like a circular conversation is kind of what it seems like. It's a circular conversation, and I don't think that really gets anywhere. You know, I don't even know if you applaud the fact that this president has agreed to forego NDAs in order for them to speak to these departments, because the information won't go any further than that, right? So we're kind of right where we start as far as that goes. So that it's kind of a it's kind of a nothing burger. But a little bit further on that, information would still go through existing declassification procedures, with the officials stating that material shedding light on the UAP or UFO issue, quote, will ultimately be made public. 40 years from now, 60, 80 years from now, maybe. Officials described it as addressing reluctance from people who believed NDAs block them from talking to government investigators. And I don't think that's ever been the case, right? Because we've heard it a billion times when these whistleblowers are testifying, when we have access to the things that they're saying. It's always we can take it into a skiff, right? So they go into the skiff with other individuals who have enough clearance to hear the information that they're able to provide. How different is it than that? Unless there's something that they know, I guess, that has a higher clearance level potentially than some of these Congress members that are able to get this information in a skiff. I don't know. I guess that would be the only benefit to it there. But Lou Elizondo actually kind of goes over this and discusses why, or explains, for instance, why he may not be able to go and, release information. He kind of talks about how this would affect him, because obviously when this news came out, a lot of people started asking him, well, hey, NDAs are going to be waived, so why don't you go out and speak on it? This is what Lou Elizondo released recently on his YouTube channel. Let's check it out.
I would like to talk about the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, that everybody thinks that the president has just somehow magically waived and now we don't have an NDA anymore. It is true that the president signed a presidential directive that has not been yet made public, so we don't know exactly what's in there. And I applaud that effort. I think it's fantastic. It's a great move forward. The problem is it doesn't alleviate us from our NDAs. What it does, it alleviates us from our NDAs from discussing this conversation about UAP with none other than who? ARROW, which, as you know, I already did. Spoke several times with ARROW. And unfortunately, at the time, Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director, didn't do a whole lot of good with that. Secondly, we can also talk to Pursue, which I may already be talking to elements of Pursue, but unfortunately, it has not alleviated my ability to speak to the general public. And this is why it's important that the U.S. government really push hard to continue to pass legislation so folks like myself, the whistleblowers, can come forward and have that conversation, not just internally within the U.S. government, but with you specifically. And so it's important for several reasons, because really there's a lot of confusion right now that, oh, Lou, you don't have an NDA anymore, you can say whatever you want. That's not true. I am still held by my secrecy oath, and until the government gives me the ability to speak openly about it, I can only go through two channels, either Arrow, which I wasn't overly impressed with the first time, and neither were my colleagues, and I don't think Congress was either, or Pursue. And like I said, I might already be talking to some individuals there, either directly or indirectly.
All right, so you heard it from Lou right there. The agency really isn't, there really is no benefit there. He did state that he was going to attempt to be pushing further to have that full blanket immunity. I just obviously don't think that that's something that they're ever going to give, for obvious reasons, because if they lift the NDA, even though they potentially wouldn't give up information in relation to like military secrets that don't have anything to do with UFOs, but technically they could be open to doing that, right? If the NDAs were completely waived and they were able to speak to the public, then they could just say everything, which is a slippery slope. So it's going to take someone who says screw these NDAs to kind of be the one to step out there and kind of take it on the chin. I know that sounds to a lot of people that are like, take it on the chin. Yeah, it's easy for you to say. But just like I said, if I was the one, I'm obviously not just saying this, but if I was the one in the position who had the ability to bring evidence, receipts, proof of what was going on behind the scenes, I would do it. First of all, it'd be global news. Just off the back, it would be global news. Therefore, I would be in the global spotlight, and it'd be kind of hard for those people who silence whistleblowers to kind of do anything, right? A target would be on your back, but it'd be kind of hard for them to pull anything off. So here's to hoping that there is someone out there who is at least considering taking that step. And because really, when we talk about the government, this is really where the only thing that you're going to be able to count on that would bring disclosure from within the government. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of these agencies set up, like the Pursue, once again, which stands for, excuse me, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, PURSUE. It is a Trump administration initiative for identifying, reviewing, declassifying, and publicly releasing UFO or U.S. government records related to unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UFOs, alien, extraterrestrial life, and related topics. So, once again, the illusion of movement, and I think that's more of the takeaway to the average person who probably, is just getting into this, who isn't in the community, is going to hear that Trump gave the authority to waive these NDAs, and they're not really going to understand that it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. So, shout out to Lou Elizondo for going online and kind of explaining, his position and why he wouldn't be able to, really do anything with it at the end of the day. We know Arrow is a corrupt organization. We know that they purposely are withholding information. They're not really investigating the cases that are being presented. They aren't even taking, credible whistleblower information and doing anything with it. That's a big problem for me. It's a big problem for us all as we, sit the government to the side and say, okay, we know they're not going to really play a part in this, but if they're able to somehow get something going, we would appreciate it. It would be a welcome thing, but we just aren't really, counting on them to do anything with this. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I want to go a little further with this because along with, and I'm sure everybody knows this, especially within the community, we also had this going on, President Trump. This happened obviously prior to this. Donald Trump came out back in February 19th of this year, and basically ordered the release of UFO files. There were a lot of people that said, "Oh wow, disclosure, president, blah blah blah." A lot of us knew that likely it wasn't really going to move the needle much, even though thus far we've had 4 UFO file releases. The first 3 were blah. The fourth one, for me, there were a few in there. We did a show about this not too long ago, talking about actually going over each of the videos and kind of just giving an opinion. First day they came out, giving a fresh look and opinion on the videos released, and you know, trying to see if there was anything that moved the needle in there. And I think there were a couple that were more interesting than the others. And but we still need more, right? Because we know that they have more of the data that would really, really move this conversation along. One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go over a couple things here, right? Thus far, 4 UFO file dumps have been made. And just to put in contrast, now I'm going to be showing, I'm going to do a quick comparison here. Just to kind of give you perspective on what could be, like some of the like UFO file release 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have the potential, though they probably won't do it, but they have the potential to give us some really, really good stuff. And I'm going to use something, it's kind of a little science fiction, but I want to show this because I think this is really in contrast to what they do really have. Let me go ahead and bring us up full screen for this. All right, so let me give you some contrast here. So just kind of starting off, right? This was one of the more compelling ones. This is in UFO file dump 4. All the ones I'm about to show you from the latest file dump. This one was compelling, and I talked about it in the show because this most closely looks like the UFO sighting that I had, which was 47 different objects in a formation, and that's kind of what's depicted here. So this is kind of cool, but it still is through a filter, and it is not as clear as I'm sure it could be, because I'm pretty sure they have this in 4K video, but we're getting the FLIR video or the infrared or one of these filters. But just for comparison, we get presented with this when we should get this. We should get this. As you can see in the upper right corner of the screen, this is courtesy disclosure day. Universal Pictures, right? And this doesn't really give anything away about the movie, but there are a few times they show, their thoughts of what the actual files look like, right? And so this depicts a pilot, a fighter pilot flying through the sky, and then this huge UFO kind of just comes up out the clouds, right? So literally, we likely have videos like or photos like this. So we should be getting this type of stuff, right? Where you can see crystal clear what it is that you're seeing. It's one of the problems that I have here with these file releases, right? To the average person, they may look at this They may look at this and say, oh, this is cool, right? It's a little fuzzy object and it's kind of moving erratically. But we get presented with stuff like this, very fuzzy. And this is why, and someone said, I can't remember who said this. It was on a show that I watched. They talked about, I think it was a news report, and they were talking about the fact that it appears, and I said this as well, it appears that the government is attempting to get, especially those who have just come in the community, kind of used to fuzzy things and saying, hey, we're being transparent, and then we're going to release files, and then they release a lot of stuff like this. So you get a lot of the new people coming in saying, oh, that's all they have. There's nothing more to this. This is all they have. And I think that's wrong. Because as we go more into it, we get presented with stuff like this. We get presented with stuff like this. When we should be getting stuff like this. Where are these videos at? Where are these type of videos at? Where are these type of images at? The government, once again, this is from the Film Disclosure Days, courtesy Universal Pictures. So we don't get in trouble for using this, but we should be getting this type of stuff. They have it. They have this type of stuff. And it's like, if you're going to do a file release, include the clear images, include the clear video. Now imagine if the drop number 5 had stuff like this. That would change the game. That would be something that, potentially could bring in disclosure. That would get the world's attention, right? But nope, they give us stuff like this. We get presented with stuff like this. And then no information with it. Just like here's a video. You figure out what it is. No information with it. Yeah, it's behaving oddly, but you can't really see what it is, right? I think people within the community have trained eyes as far as understanding that this wouldn't be something prosaic, this wouldn't be something explainable, but we should be getting images or videos like this. Now where is this at? Where are the images and videos like this? Once again, from the Film Disclosure Day, right? So, and this essentially goes into the mind of Steven Spielberg. So, as far as him and his writers go, as they're telling this story, they're under, belief, and rightfully so, that the government has these sort of images. And Lou Elizondo has gone as far as confirming that. So has Christopher Mellon. So has David Grush. So have other whistleblowers. Jeremy Corbell claims to have knowledge of things like this. Where are these at? This is what we need. Like, if you're going to be serious about disclosure, if you're going to be, honest about, transparency and saying, hey, we're going to be transparent with the people, release the files. Well, tell your task force, tell Pursue to get these sort of images put together. We don't want to see any more grainy stuff, right? Skeptics are tired of it. We're tired of it in the community. Give us the goods. If you can give us one really good one, and that alone would do something with the conversation. Just one good video, one good picture, 4K, right? but I think they're trying to normalize grainy footage. And so skeptics are okay and right to say all you guys have is blurry or grainy footage. And it's true. It is true. Now, there's different the reasons that people say is the case. The reason why, when we're taking videos with smartphones, really, they're not designed to take pictures of things far away or record video far away. But in a lot of cases, some people say there's, you know, um, maybe some sort of bubble around some of these craft that just don't allow you to get a clear image of it, right? In the best case. However, the government has, and I believe recently I heard Chris Mellon say that we had satellite imagery that shows these things from above very clear. And if you remember, there was this I think it was a land survey satellite that was kind of surveying the land and just so happened to catch UFO from above, and it was pretty clear, right? So we know that they have images like this. Just give us the good stuff. And so even though, and that's why it bothered me when there were all these people, slapping high fives and getting all excited because, oh, the government has come out and said they're going to release UFO files. They're going to be transparent. This is going to be it. Donald Trump, the disclosure president. The titles on everyone's videos, their thumbnails were Donald Trump, the disclosure president. What do you got? What do you got so far? You're going to get more of the same, right? And I think a lot of people are starting to understand that, right? Because we're already on UFO file dump 4. And yes, it has ramped up a little bit just because they did give us a couple decent ones, but they were still through that filter and it was still blurry to where if you didn't see one of the 5 observables, then you really didn't know what you were looking at. And still, really, without the data that they did not provide, you still don't know really what you're looking at. So, what do you really get? What does that really give you? Does that move the needle for you? That's the question I have. And I ask you this. Has the government been successful in helping or hurting the disclosure movement with their latest efforts? And I'll let you guys answer that. I mean, if you have any answer to that, I would love to hear it. I would love to see it. Has the government been successful in helping or hurting the disclosure movement with their latest efforts? I'm going to say hurt for the reasons that I just explained. It just appears that you are admitting that there's weird things. And for us in the community that have had experiences ourselves and have filmed things ourselves, like we already know, that there's these weird things. We've seen them with our own eyes, right? So way better than any UFO file video could be. We've seen these things with our own eyes, so we know. But you're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of everyone else that is now became aware and are now looking into the subject. You're giving them a long string of videos. They could go either way, depending on what your perspective is, and then not getting enough information to confirm it on our own or even disprove it. So it's in that limbo gray area, right? So I think that does a lot. That just really hurts the situation. I think it's more, it more hurts than anything else. So I'm just gonna check Roger Murray real quick because he dropped in talking about, oh, Rob G, government is hurting people with this, and I agree. Roger Murray, Blue Riders DG, more BS from the government as always. And I get that and understand that, and I'm with you. I really think that's insane. And Roger Murray says, look like a sailboat in the water. Were you talking about the little triangle craft sticking out the clouds? There's real video, and I was gonna say that there's real video out there on the internet where there is this huge object coming out the clouds, but it doesn't seem to be, solid. It kind of does this rotation. It kind of sticks up out the cloud like that image depicted there, and it kind of does this rotation thing and then kind of dissipates into like a streak. I'll have to get that queued up for the next show. But that's what that Disclosure Day video reminded me of. It reminded me of that. We Riders DG, Social Dig Rob Jeezy, bringing the receipts for all you ufology peeps. Can y'all dig it? Appreciate it. Roger Murray says, I take dump on the UFO files. Yeah, it's a UFO dump, right? It's a UFO dump. Let's see. The Tankila says, I believe Graves, Fravor, Dietrich, Salas, and Grush over them. Over Lou, I mean. Oh, okay. Well, guess what? That was right on time because we're going to definitely be talking about that here. Roger Murray. Okay, Lou Elizondo, fake mothership UFO, not true whistleblower. We're gonna be going into that in just a minute here. Actually, that's right on time. So I just kind of wanted to end that thought there. I wanted to end that thought there because, it's a disingenuous effort from the government, you know, faking like they're giving us disclosure, quote unquote. We already know the government's not going to do it, but there are people out there who subscribe to government news and they have a lot of faith in the government, and like when they make moves like, for instance, the president coming out saying release all the UFO files. There's a lot of people that heard that and went berserk and acted like, oh, this is it. This is the day. Oh, it's finally happened. And most of us were like, nothing's going to come out of that. Right. And then here you go. You get a lot of that here. So let me see here. What you say, Woo Riders? Let me check this out. Says Rob, around 6 weeks ago, I got a UFO on camera. It looked like the one from that movie, Nope. Oh, okay. Came out okay with my camera phone, but saw it very clear with the naked eye. Looks like a living craft. And looked like it was swimming through the sky, if that makes sense. No, definitely makes sense. And, I'm glad you said that because I've always told this story too. With the movie Nope, I went to the theater to watch it and I left the theater. Well, I sat in my seat when the movie was over, credits were rolling, and I was like, I didn't know how I felt about the ending. I didn't know where I was with that. I was like, wow, okay, so the craft was the alien? Huh. But then, like I've told this before, sitting there for about 5 minutes, I get up, start walking to the car. Before I even get to the car, it hits me and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. There's something to that. Then I started thinking about all of the um, experiences that have been talked about where people have said that exact same thing. Like they felt like the craft was alive some sort of way. I don't know, how that could be. I don't necessarily think that the craft is a living thing, although I know they do behave in sort of a biologically lifelike sort of way, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, Derek Galloway, if you had that, that's awesome because obviously Jeremy Corbell came out with the video that was then released in the UFO files that depicted essentially what they showed in Nope, which was like a disc-shaped object moving through the clouds like it was alive. So I can say this: if the video was obviously authentic because the government confirmed that during the release, but if they caught it then, yeah, I mean, you probably could catch it at some point in time if you were lucky enough to look up and see something like that. So I'm with you there. Totally with you, Derek Galloway. I'd love to see that video too. If you ever want to show it, send it over, man. You got my number. And this is kind of what kicked this all off, this whole UFO file thing. Donald Trump came out and said, based on tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. And then this is what we get. What I just showed you. The fuzzy stuff. And once again, once you compare that to the images that we were showing, and let me just go through that again. I think it's at least worth it to look at that. This is just the contrast when you think about it. They gave us this, but we should be getting this. They gave us that, but we should be getting this. They gave us this, but we should be getting this. And that's all I'm saying, man. There's individuals out there that can make this happen. And it would I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'd be in shock just like everyone else if they dropped a photo or video like this, even though we know the presence is there, we've seen it, we know it's there. But to get that 4K crystal clear image showing exactly what the thing is, undeniably, that's a moment. That's a moment right there. So, I would hope that we could produce something like that. When I say us, I mean within the community. Maybe that's, a new thing that we can do is put together a team of individuals around the world that have really good cameras, position those at the sky for an extended period of time. I'd say if we could get some really good cameras, put them up pointing at the sky for 30 days. Say we have a network of cameras positioned all around the world, pointing at the sky for 30 days. I think on one of those cameras, we get something really, really good. Really, really good. And I think it might be as simple as doing that when we talk about disclosure coming from, us within the community. I think that's like a step that we need to take. Now, maybe it can be some sort of publicly funded thing so that the data ends up not being controlled by any one particular group, so it's completely open to the public. I think that would be something that I think would definitely close the deal. And then, you wouldn't have to worry about any government, anything at that point. and we had our own cameras pointing at the sky a month, 2 months, 3 months for sure. One of those cameras is going to catch something. These things are up there all the time. So maybe we can float that around, maybe make that a hot topic around the community and see if we can push for something like that. You know, connect a group of individuals, maybe start some sort of social media group and get membership from different people around the world who would commit to, using their equipment, their camera to, position it at the sky for a extended period of time and see what we get. It's like fishing, right? Throwing out your fishing rod. This is exactly the same thing. Fishing for UFOs. So I think that's something we could do and we should do. So with that being said, let me go ahead and let me check the comments real quick before I move on. Hey Magneticus, appreciate you coming on in, buddy. Long time no see. Thanks for coming in. Also, all right, let's go ahead and move on. I got some other stuff for you guys to see here. Let's talk about it. UFO drama strikes again. I was unaware of this because I'm not a drama guy. I came into this community and there was a bit of drama going on when I first came in. It was 3, 4, maybe 5 years back. Right in the middle, I'm sure if you've been in the community, I don't even want to say any names, but I think everybody remembers the whole drama back and forth thing that was going on about 3, 4 years ago. I didn't understand that there was so much drama in the UFO community. I've experienced some myself. I was kind of, I guess, naive to the fact that it was like a soap opera. A lot of the stuff that I was witnessing was like a bunch of unnecessary division of the community and just a lot of back and forth. It was something I didn't think was there. It was something that I didn't want to participate in. And there's been periods of time where things have been okay, but you still have, because I think what the problem is a lot of show hosts out there, um, and talking figures within the UFO community. It's all about them, right? Ufology has an ego problem. There's a lot of individuals out there with huge egos, from some of the smallest channels up to some of the biggest ones, from some of the smallest talking figures to some of the biggest ones. And it's all about them. And if you are not, dedicated to and focusing on them, they don't want to have anything to do with you. Also, there's no collaboration. Like, collaboration is very rare, and it's because of ego. You got a lot of people just saying, "Hey, I'm just do this on my own. I don't need that person. I'm not going to deal with that person." And it goes even a little deeper because it's not just ego, but it's also a lot of misinformation, disinformation. There's a lot of individuals out there who are just straight up telling fantasies on their shows and speaking engagements, just spewing fantasy, complete and total and utter BS, lies, to sensationalize. Like I saw a guy say that ufology seemed like almost like a reality, like reality TV stars, and I kind of see it. And there was someone, and that person knows who they are. I won't say any names because the person knows who they are. When I first came in, and I started up my channel, my show. I talked to an individual. You could probably jump in my archives, figure out who it is, but this person told me there is about all the drama within UFO community. I did not see it at the time. As far as I saw what was going on, but I thought that was a specific issue between specific individuals, but not like widespread confusion and drama completely around. I was new, I was green, right? But then as I've been in this community, then I've actually seen it myself. I've experienced it myself. UFO drama. I'm not a drama guy, right? I don't get into that. I'm in this for truth, transparency, and for humanity. I'm trying to get to the answers, right? I'm not trying to waste my time with an individual who claims to know all the answers because it's not possible. So, that's how I don't get wrapped up in all the BS that way, right? Because it's just like, do you have something to add to what we know and something that's going to move us forward? It's going to move the needle. And if you don't, I'm not involving myself with that. And I only associate myself with individuals that feel the same way because I think we're all trying to get to the same place. And before I kind of get ahead of myself, I wanted to I wanted to go through a couple different things. Roger Murray says, Rob G, I call them talking heads in the UFO world. Yeah, exactly. Rob G lives near NASA. All I see is rockets. I live near Vandenberg Air Force Base, and I was lucky enough to see a rocket go across the sky. It was pretty awesome. It had one of those, when it gets high altitude, the gases expand and it creates like a bubble around the rocket, so it looks like a UFO. So I saw one of those. It's pretty awesome. Let's see. Um, yeah, I get you. I get you, Magneticus. I used to have fun. Now it's just a large group following similar scripts. Exactly. And focusing, I think, on the wrong things, though. This is supposed to be about unity. It's supposed to be about uniting everyone in all of humanity. That's what the channel is about. Uniting everyone, regardless of where you come from, whatever your walk of life is, whatever you believe in, doesn't matter. This is all about getting us all together because that's what it's going to take. And a lot of these individuals out there are not even thinking like that. And that's what blew my mind. I assumed that that that's what the whole thing was about. That's what I thought this community was about. I thought it was about everybody getting together, uniting, getting to the answers. But for a lot of other people, it's not that. It's about boosting their egos, making themselves feel better. They could, disclosure would probably be the last thing they want because that means uh, the grift is over for a lot of those guys. If this was answered tomorrow, a lot of those guys don't have a plan on where their shows go after that. What would they talk about, right? That's the problem I'm having. When I look around, I don't see, a lot of forward thinking and, you know, trying to bring people together. I've kind of wanted to, and before I just talk too long, I just want to say this before we get into the video here. I've always wanted to, I thought it was a good idea to have all hosts of all shows kind of intermingling with each other because everyone has these audiences. The idea is to get all these audiences together because that's the group that you need to make a move like what we need to do to get to the truth and kind of demands man we need to be able to unite something, right? But a lot of people just happy keeping things segregated, and when the government looks at the UFO community and they see that and they see the drama and they see all the infighting, they're happy with that. That's what they want. And I'm it's discouraging in a way, right? Because it goes against what we should be doing. And it's like, hey, flat six, appreciate you coming in. It's what we're supposed to be doing, and it just seems like there's a lot of people not really interested in that. And that's why I don't tune into a lot of the stuff. I get some, information from some of the people that are like-minded out there that are really trying to get answers and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that I engage with. Um, you know, and I appreciate it. But with that being said, let's kind of get through this because there's definitely some UFO drama out there that I was just aware of. And I just wanted to make a point about this, not really to get into the drama or promote the drama, because I don't think that there's really anything positive that comes out of that. But I think there's a message on the back end of this. So hopefully we don't get in trouble for this. This is fair use, guys. But there's this guy, you may know him. I'm just finding out who he is. Guy named UAP Gerb, who was recently on Reality Check with Ross Coulthard. And there's two sides to this that I want to kind of talk about, but I do want to play this piece because this is kind of the base of the conversation that I want to have here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. News Nation, I give you courtesy. Don't do anything crazy to us here. We're just trying to use this for fair use, analyze it, and also add to the conversation. So let's check it out. Here we go.
Is someone trying to control the narrative?
Yes. You made a statement recently as of recording this program where you talked about allegations and rumors of a pretty high-profile person within the UAP topic being appointed at a very high level to kind of spearhead the disclosure initiative or be integral to it out of the White House or executive branch. I'm going to go ahead and take that leap, and I will be very plain here. That individual is Luis Elizondo, and he is currently being tasked, likely has the position for a National Security Council level role. Exactly what he had been looking for as the quote-unquote UAP czar. This is detrimental to the disclosure process. This is extremely concerning. Like you said, of partial disclosure, limited disclosure, we have seen this before. This takes us back to the year of 2017, in which Lou Elizondo and a cadre of other individuals under a program, an informal working group called ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, had been working from 2009 to roll out a partial disclosure campaign at the behest of Lieutenant General and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. Once again, we are in this situation, and it is perilous for the disclosure effort.
What you're suggesting is that 10 years on from the beginning, if you like, of the disclosure movement, you believe there's another attempt to control the narrative yet again.
That's correct, and let's unpack this a little bit. Lou Elizondo, there are some staunch allegations that prior to him going public with the Leslie Kean New York Times article in 2017, I think the article is called Glowing Auras and Black Money, where 3 forward-looking infrared videos of anomalous signatures or UAP were released. There are pretty heavy allegations that Lou Elizondo himself had experience within the UAP legacy programs. There hasn't been much discussion about what this role was, but this alleged role was technology protection and program protection for the programs.
But to be fair to Lou has spoken quite openly about the retrieval program, the fact that there are craft that have been recovered. He's candidly admitted that Roswell was real. He's talked about the reverse engineering program. If you're accusing him of a cover-up, where's the evidence?
Well, first of all, let me just say I'm not accusing him of a cover-up. I'm relaying allegations because I don't want to get sued. And you do have to be careful of that with Lou to get sued or kind of threatened. So let me just make that clear. I'm making allegations. But I wouldn't be so sure he's been so open on the topic of crash retrievals and reverse engineering. So James Clapper establishing the ATIP as a cover for several National Security Council activities, appointing Lou Elizondo as the frontman for ATIP, that was a limited disclosure campaign that originated from within the legacy program. And like you mentioned, crash retrievals in Elizondo, this can be observed perfectly with the testimony of David Grush. In June of 2023, David Grush testified before Congress about the UAP legacy program. He discussed decades of crash retrievals, reverse engineering efforts, misappropriation of funds to fund these programs. Prior to 2023, Lou Elizondo essentially did not discuss crash retrievals bar Roswell. Roswell, you can make an exception because essentially Roswell is a cultural zeitgeist event at the moment in the United States.
Because Lou said Roswell was real.
Yes.
I mean, if he's part of a cover-up, if he's trying to conceal this recovery program, why did he talk about it?
Roswell is so far in the past, it is very easy to say that the materials, programs that once existed surrounding Roswell, holdings, possible biologics, breakthroughs, are so long in the past that chain of custody is broken. You know, maybe the materials got sent to Wright-Patterson and then who knows what happened, or there had been no breakthroughs from that. Additionally, Elizondo and others could say that other high-level sources told them about Roswell and that's how they knew that. But once Dave Grush spoke about the UAP legacy program, then Elizondo started speaking about crash retrievals. And if you listen to Elizondo's testimony in 2024, he directly told Representative Nancy Mace he was and had been under a non-disclosure agreement regarding crash retrievals.
So that was effectively an explicit admission that he knew about crash retrievals?
Correct.
Wow. I hadn't realized that before. So you're suggesting that David Grush forced Lou Elizondo's hand?
Correct.
Okay, so this was the claim made by UAP GERB. Now, I would say if you haven't seen this full video, it's over on Reality Check. Just came out a couple days ago. It's actually a good video. You know, this guy UAP GERB gives a lot of information. I don't know how, based off of facts, factual information, but it's the picture that he puts together is a pretty interesting one to do. And that's okay. That's a good thing. But the thing is that I think where it becomes, an issue for me is that you could deliver that information. Why throw someone else under the bus in order to do that? Now, what he said may be true about Lou Elizondo. And there's a lot of people probably even here tonight. I think I saw some comments where some people feel the same way about Lou Elizondo, the same as what UAP GERB stated on Reality Check. And, but the thing is that when he made those claims, he didn't have any evidence to back it up. So it's like, I don't know that it's ever an okay situation to kind of just attack someone or put a label on someone without, bringing some receipts to the table. I think it's very important to do. And I think it's kind of irresponsible to even speak on it if you weren't then right afterwards going to show some receipts to back it up. Because otherwise, it's just accusations and baseless claims, which is a shame because a lot of the stuff he says afterwards, I listened to it and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Wow, I didn't think about that like that. There were a lot of different perspectives that he had where I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so, but this obviously, and this comes off of about 4 weeks ago, Ross Coulthard actually essentially said the same thing that you just heard UAP GERB say. So I think he got the information from UAP GERB a few weeks back and then had him on the show to kind of allow him to say it himself. But I think that's unnecessary conflict, right? And I'll kind of get into it a little bit later on how I feel about it. But Lou Elizondo responded to it, which he should, especially with there being no evidence behind what was said. So let's hear what Lou Elizondo had to say about what you just heard.
There was an interview done very recently on Ross Coulthard's Reality Check show under the News Nation moniker. And they had a guest on there that spoke really some incredible outlandish claims that are 180 degrees false and they're just not factual. And so what I want to do is address that real quick. And why is that? Because in this process of disclosure, there are people out there that are trying to hijack and derail this conversation by feeding you false information. People who claim to be on the inside, who know information, they don't. And they're saying things, frankly, I can only suspect for clicks and likes. So please be careful of that. First and foremost, one of the allegations was that ATIP was a limited hangout. Well, let's not forget that in 2009, Senator Harry Reid himself, who was the chairperson for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence for the U.S. Senate, that was his program. That was his. They paid for it with U.S. taxpayer money, and he even sent a letter in 2009, a memo, official memo, to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Lynn, at the time. So if this was a limited hangout that was being paid by U.S. government taxpayer money, then by default you're saying that the sissy itself is a limited hangout, and by extension the U.S. Congress and even the U.S. government. So that simply doesn't make sense. It's factually not correct. It's not true. Not sure where this individual's getting their information, but they're not getting it from people who actually know. Another allegation that was made during this interview was that somehow General Clapper and I had colluded with one another to try to go ahead and create this soft disclosure, and that we were going to go ahead and manage it and control it. That is 1,000% not accurate. In fact, we never had such a conversation, and Jim Clapper and I never met to have that conversation. So again, it's factually not correct. And the problem is that you have an individual here who is sensationalizing stuff and making stuff up, quite frankly, who has ulterior motives. That's deceiving you. And furthermore, they're getting attention on a national news network that, by the way, I respect, and that's always been a friend of disclosure, and now manipulating them and providing false information to their audience to the point where they're like a tabloid. And I think this is problematic. If you want to know why I've always said I want to destroy ufology and replace it with something better, this is why. Because of bad actors like this, people who come out, they're just interested in clicks and likes, they're only interested in manufactured and false drama, and they're going about doing things that are actually putting disclosure further back than where we are. And this is a problem. I'll share something else with you too, another anecdote about to show you the character of this individual. Recently, as a month ago, I attended a function in Washington, D.C. This individual happened to be there. I didn't know who he was, but I saw a circle of people surrounding him, and they were berating him. I worried for his safety to some degree, and maybe figured he was getting picked on, and walked over and interjected. And as I pulled him away, I was told, hey, that's the guy that's been talking crap about everybody and been making things up. So I pulled him aside and I said, hey, look, these people are obviously pretty upset with you. If you have any questions in the future, here's my personal cell phone number. Now, this went against my better judgment, but I did it anyways. As you all know, I'm very open and transparent. So I said, look, if you ever have any questions, please give me a call. And obviously, he looked at me. He had, to me, it looked like tears in his eyes. And he looked at me and said, oh, okay, sir, yes, I promise I'll do that. I'll make sure that I call you if I have any questions in the future, and I won't do that. And just start spewing off of garbage. And I looked at him and said, good, I appreciate that. You know, we can be friends. I'm happy to, whether you agree with me or not, I'm happy to give you information. Just reach out to me and I can clarify stuff. Well, guess what? A month later, he goes on a network television series and starts spewing off more crap that was completely wrong. He never called me once, right? So what kind of due diligence, investigative type skill set does it require just to go out and make up stuff about people, right? And this is why we're having a problem. If you want to know what's wrong with the UFO community, you have people out there, and by the way, yes, I'm addressing you who lied, to look in the mirror. You're the reason why we're having this problem with disclosure. You're the reason why people don't take this topic seriously, and frankly, you should be ashamed of yourself. I know I'm ashamed for what you did. You should be embarrassed. And the fact that you're talking to people and claiming you have access to stuff you don't, I don't ever remember you in any of the meetings that I was at the Pentagon or at ATIP, quite frankly. In fact, if you want inside information, going to talk to somebody and saying you have an inside source, as far as I'm concerned, that's called gossip. That's not information. And secondly, I think it's also important to say that as you continue to disparage and provide false information, remember, there's real consequences. There are real consequences for your actions and what you are doing. And I would not want to be you right now, because when this all comes out that you're just BSing, I think there's going to be a price to pay. So anyways, folks, I hope you're well. I didn't want to address this. You know, I hate having to do this because all it does is goad people and more people to want to have conversations. I'm in the middle of a drive across country. Last thing I need to do is, you know, deal with this headache. But I think it's important enough to address it and address it head on and let you know the truth. I've always been committed to the truth. Hopefully most of you know that by practice. And be wary, be very careful of people who are trying to paint a false narrative and then try to get attention for it. Very disingenuous, very disingenuous. So here I am, folks, once again. And Ross, that goes for you, man. I love you, buddy, but you have my phone number. You can call me anytime, you know that. So if you have any questions of who I am or what I'm doing, that's never stopped you before from calling me. Just give me a shout. We have to be careful with media here, especially News Nation, who's a friend to disclosure. You know, they've got a reputation. A lot of people listen to them. So we've really got to do our due diligence in making sure that the information that is being provided is accurate. And I do appreciate what you're doing, Ross. But please, for the love of God, be more careful with who you decide to have on your program.
Okay, so with that being said, that was Lou Elizondo responding to Ross Coulthard and UAP GERB's accusations. There was a question in here. Let me go ahead and get to it. I think it was missing time 420. Let me get back to you here. Asking, do you think the Glock Cat was a special choice for this beast pet? I don't think it had anything to do with it, truthfully. You know, a lot of gun enthusiasts own Glock Cats. They wear them. I don't know that there's any reason to believe that he wore it especially for this video. And I think as well, what I've heard around the community in relation to this reply is that they felt like Lou Elizondo was threatening UAP GERB when he said something about the consequences or whatever he just said about that there. And I don't really feel like that was a threat. And I could be wrong. I'm just saying from my perspective, what it sounded like is he was just saying, hey, you know, being out here, if you're, and it'd probably go for anyone, period, who would be making statements without the proper information. It's just not a good thing, especially if you get fact checked later on down the line. Then it just makes you look silly. You lose a lot of credibility. So I would also tell someone who was speaking as fact without the receipts to back it up to say, hey, you know, maybe it's something that you don't say until you have receipts, because you want to make sure if you're going to stand on a stage and make a statement that you're factual in what you're saying. So I would be concerned for someone potentially wrecking their credibility by saying something is false. Now, that's not to say that what UAP GERB said was not accurate. I don't know. I don't know that it is or that it isn't. A lot of people have different opinions on that, and I think that that's the point of it is that a lot of these individuals, when you talk about people in the UFO community who watch these videos, who comment on those videos, you don't even know these guys. Neither one of them. Any of them. Like, you know them through YouTube. You know them through television. No one knows these people personally. So to cast, or to even take the time to cast feelings about someone you don't know, I think is just weird. And I'm going to explain why that's weird in just a moment. But there was Richard Dolan as well. And once again, that courtesy to Lou Elizondo's YouTube channel is where the video we just watched came from. He's released other videos there. some related to the topic, some related to other things. But I'd say if you want to go watch that in full, go to his YouTube channel. But Need to Know, Richard Dolan, who is the guy with the good balanced opinion and perspective, right? He doesn't really get into all the junk. He is more of a researcher, more of a UFO historian sort of thing, right? So he's kind of just going off of knowledge of things that we know based on historical data, which is another thing I always say is what we should be doing, right? So regardless of what this person or that person is saying, if you think they're lying about something or not, don't even concern yourself with that. Don't even waste your energy trying to figure out if this person is lying or that person is lying. Just take what they're saying and weigh it against historical data, and just you may find that there's one or two things you could take away from that that's useful. The rest of it, just throw it away, right? Don't even spend your day or your time focusing personally on an individual you don't even know, and having like a personal hate or disdain for a person that you don't even know, right? I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in having emotional feelings one way or the other about different individuals in the community. And I think that's what drives UFO drama, right? So that means that all of us are a part of that when we engage. And I'll kind of get more into that in just a moment. But uh, Richard Dolan had, like I said, a balanced kind of opinion. There was a brief discussion. They didn't really talk about it, but for a moment on Need to Know. So shout out to Need to Know. I want to play it's like about a minute or two where they kind of discussed it. And then Richard Dolan actually himself, uh, like a couple days ago, kind of, spoke his mind. So this is prior to the Need to Know show on his own channel, the Richard Dolan Intelligent Disclosure, I believe is what it's called. He actually gave, a couple fact checks on kind of what was said. It's kind of saying some of the same things we're saying here. So let's see what they said on Need to Know. We'll check out Richard Dolan as well, solo, on his own show, what he said, and then we'll be right back.
The other thing that strikes me when I hear all this talk is, okay, controlling the narrative. Look, the attempts to control the narrative that has historically have been around have really been to tamp it down. In other words, Blue Book. Let's control the narrative. Let's make sure people don't take this seriously. The Condon Commission. Let's tamp this down. Let's not take this seriously, right? Then you come along, if you're going to accuse Lou Elizondo of controlling the narrative, holy crap, then the narrative has changed, because every time I see Elizondo and have seen him, he's saying these things are real. They can't be done by anybody around. I've seen bodies. Or I don't know if he said that he's seen them, but bodies are real, craft are real, reverse engineering is real. How is that controlling the narrative? The only time I ever hear people truly complain about controlling the narrative is literally the idea that they're saying, well, Elizondo's there to make it sound like a threat, but it's not. Well, right. I'm not seeing the evidence one way or the other. So that's why, Rich, I think you and I both agree. I think we agree that one should be at least cautious until more is known about it. And I always cite Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. I'd like to trust whoever's here, but I don't have all the evidence. And so if Lou Elizondo is controlling a narrative that James Clapper is pushing, what kind of narrative is it that they're being accused to push?
What is the narrative? I keep wondering. And I mean, you go wind it back to 2017 or 2016, where our society was in a very different place with this whole subject. People were not talking about it in the mainstream. This was not a career promoter type of a move. Like this is a career ending type of a move up until that point. And then starting around 2017, we see, actually, was it Bigelow? He gave his very interesting interview, I think in 2016 or early 2017, Bigelow on 60 Minutes. And he's part of this too. They're all part of this community. So am I supposed to think you're promoting belief in UFOs? This is part of a nefarious government narrative. I don't think people are thinking that. So yes, again, the question is, what is a narrative?
Well, and if you're talking about a narrative, okay, you got Elizondo out there saying these things are real and we should pay attention to them right away. Okay, and it's a serious issue. If anybody's, now there's a new counter narrative to him where people are saying, but don't trust Elizondo. Okay, so there are two narratives out there. I'm not sure I completely understand the fight.
All right, so they just briefly spoke about it, but essentially just kind of echoing what we're saying here, right? Because that's kind of how I felt, when I watched that Need to Know episode and I heard the accusations. I was waiting, I thought he was going to kind of go into some of the proof of the receipts, but he kind of just went on to another subject after kind of making those accusations. So, and like I said before, this is not, I don't have any vested interest in either side. I'm more about let's gather the information. Everyone has their right to speak on the subject, and let's kind of take away from it what you want to take away from it. So he had a great presentation. He gave some perspectives on his idea of how he felt like this whole thing works. And it sounded pretty good, right? And it's just one way to look at it. It doesn't mean that what he said was accurate or correct. It was but it was pretty detailed in how he laid it out. So that's great and that's fine. But he could have just done that entire interview without even bringing anyone else's name up, right? If he cut off the Lou Elizondo part of that interview, it would have been fantastic. But the drama comes from the accusations being made, and then you have people like who don't have a dog in the fight, like Bryce Zabel, Richard Dolan, who are kind of saying, well, wait, that was kind of unwarranted. Like, I'm open to it. I'm open to what you're saying about Lou Elizondo, but let's kind of bring some receipts to the table. Richard Dolan went a little deeper, like the day before this Need to Know on his own channel. Once again, Intelligent Disclosure. And I think he laid out a couple of he brought up a couple good questions that I'm sure he'd want to ask Gerb in relation to what it was that he said. So this is what Dolan said. And I think we're almost done here. So let's check this out real quick.
I'm not here, by the way, to defend Lou Elizondo. He may know a lot more than he has disclosed, and parts of his intelligence career, I have no doubt, would deserve investigation. My problem is that the theory that's been put out contains, at least in my view, substantial problems of evidence, of chronology, and at times, I just have to say, basic logic. So I just want to walk through some of these. But as far as I understand, Gerb describes ATIP as an informal, unfunded working group that basically served as bureaucratic cover for various unspecified NSC UAP activities, apparently including something relating to like a crash retrieval portfolio and a limited disclosure effort. What I still do not understand is why anyone protecting a retrieval program would initiate this type of a strategy. But there really is no evidence that's presented in any of Gerb's analysis for such a triggering event. Like you're really just wondering what that could have been. It's one thing to say that Hillary Clinton was considered trustworthy. Okay, that explains why she might have been chosen, but it does not explain why disclosure had to begin. Ultimately, I ask, why would the custodians of this secret voluntarily weaken the whole system that had protected them for decades and decades? Gerb says that before David Grush appeared in 2023, that Elizondo essentially avoided discussing crash retrievals except for Roswell. And that is just not accurate. On May 31st, 2019, I have a screenshot of it here, Tucker Carlson interviewed Lou Elizondo. And he asked Elizondo directly whether the government possessed material from one of these aircraft, at first, was how he first put it. And then he made the question more explicit. He actually said, did the government possess debris from a UFO? And Elizondo, initially he referred to his non-disclosure obligations, but then he just said, simply put, Tucker, yes. And that was 4 years before David Grush hit the scene. And this was not just a vague discussion here of lights in the sky or even Roswell. What you really had with this was in Elizondo, a recently departed Pentagon intelligence official publicly affirming that the United States government had possession of UFO material.
And so I think Richard Dolan kind of wrapped it up and he talks a lot more about this. He has like an hour-long video on this. We just had a couple clips from part of his conversation there. He goes on for about an hour, so I definitely recommend you guys go watch that full video over on Richard Dolan's channel, the Intelligent Disclosure channel on YouTube. I'll leave links for everything that we've looked at here today. And like I said, he's coming from a level place, right? And he's kind of, and the historian that he is, he's kind of going through some fact checks. Now, if you only watch the Need to Know and you didn't see any of this other stuff, then a lot of people just took what he was saying, accusations, just at face value. And you had a lot of people in the comments, and we'll be looking at some of that too, who were just cheering him on for doing it. And that just is sowing division within the community. It's like drumming up drama, right? If you're going to make the accusation, great. Just bring the receipts. And this is what I said, calling out individuals who may be sowing disinformation in the community is welcomed. I always talk about that. I know there's frauds in the community, for sure. And fraud should be called out. Because we got to, if you can, kind of get them out of the conversation. So I've always talked about that being a welcome thing. I'm okay with that. But receipts are going to be needed in order to do that. And when I was going through the comment section, someone referred me to a video for UAP GERB. And once again, this is not anything really, I'm not showing all this to go against a UAP guy. I don't even know him. I don't even know who he is. I'm just basing what we're looking at today off of something that stirred up drama in the community that didn't have to be stirred up. Because when you don't bring receipts to the table, then there's a lot of speculation, or there's a lot of people just, again, taking what is said at face value. Bring the receipts on it. There's a lot of people that have said they felt that same way about Lou without real evidence, but maybe just, off a couple things that Lou did with the chandelier UFO, a couple different things that people didn't like. And that's okay to have that sort of opinion based on something like that. But to not like someone because someone says something about someone is just crazy. That goes back to grade school, sort of mentality, right? Where, because your friend says something about this other person, you don't know if it's true or not, but your friend said it. So you just take it at face value and you go along with it. You end up talking to that other person later and you find out it wasn't like that. And then you find out that's actually a pretty cool person. That's what's going on here. Like high school drama. And it's crazy that can get in the way of what we are supposed to be doing, which is trying to get to disclosure. Now, this is going to kind of blow your mind, because even with the accusations without proof, as Richard Dolan just laid out for you, someone in the comment section of the video I was looking at pointed towards a conversation the UAP GERB had about a year ago. And when I saw it, I'm like, how is this possible? So essentially, the basis of their Need to Know conversation, when he's bringing up Lou, He's accusing him of being like a government plant, essentially, who was tasked to kind of control disclosure. Like his real goal is to control disclosure and only focus on military and kind of slow leak this stuff out, only give us the grainy videos, and saying that he had a bigger part in protecting the legacy program. So essentially calling him a government asset, right? So you wouldn't then believe what you're about to see here. This was on the Danny Jones podcast almost a year to the day, August 5th of last year. The same UFO Gerb had this to say, and it blew my mind.
I've never spoken to Greer. I don't plan to. He and I don't have a good relationship. He called me an intelligence asset, so I'm not too, and he's also hurt many of my friends, so I'm not too high up on Greer. I think that he kind of has his own vested interest in a lot of the testimonies he receives. I think he treats whistleblowers that come to him like his whistleblowers, instead of their own autonomous people that should be directed to, people like David Grush to disclose to, or Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. And so I think it's very complicated, but I'm not a huge fan. I don't really like being called an intelligence asset or him hurting my friends.
You don't like being called an intelligence asset. I think that's just what you did on the show there without receipts. So it's like you kind of gotta, I don't know, right? It just is what it is. And it's like it's a bunch of just confusion being started within the UFO community. And I don't think that it's okay, because then you get comments like this. And let me bring this up full screen for you guys here. Then you get comments like this. So Gerb makes that statement on the need to know, and then causing division in the UFO community because comments are made like this. Lou E is a conceited mess who only wants to talk big and be famous. He's a UAP puppet boy for the U.S. government. He doesn't speak openly about anything unless Big Brother tells him to, or tells him exactly what to say. Lou is a total loser. He's been out there over a decade, now selling books and getting paid high-priced fees to speak in places, all as a part of the government puppet boy in their narrative they want him to say. Okay, that's a comment left by a viewer. That's their own opinion. And I always say, leave a comment, hit the like or dislike, however you feel. You're free to feel how you feel. But a comment like that is driven off of the information that he gave during that show. And if it doesn't come without receipts, then what have you done by doing that? You just created chaos, friction. And really, your name is UAP Gerb. I'm assuming that you're about disclosure. So why would you put unnecessary friction in front of, the path to disclosure? Like, why would you want anyone to spend time on drama? And that shouldn't be the message. That's why I say again, great presentation. I recommend you go watch the Need to Know interview. He had a lot of good stuff to say, but you could have left the baseless stuff out, and it would have just been perfect. It would have, chef's kiss. It'd have been great, right? But then you get people that comment like this, and then kind of shifting a little bit. I think the other problem is, and this is more of a self-reflection, right, for us in the community, because we've talked about the community being made up of a lot of people who just believe without any facts or information, will just believe what a person is saying. And we've seen throughout the years, whenever a new exciting thing happens in ufology, where there's a whistleblower who comes out and has all the information, all of a sudden that person is king. People put an individual person on a pedestal. And that's what happened here. He gave a great presentation, but then you had people immediately, and I'll bring this to full screen again, immediately in the comment section saying things like this. First, I'm surprised people in the comments below don't say, Gerb is a god. Wow, people really worship this guy. Gerb this, Gerb that. No wonder they believe everything is paranormal. That comment is about our community and how people in the community just believe things when at face value without needing any sort of receipts or evidence. And we know that that exists within the community. We've talked about it before. And then here's some examples of what this person is actually talking about. Yet people leave comments like this. Gerb is a true American hero. In Gerb we trust. Gerb's work is God's work. How immediately, once again, we don't know these people personally. So how in the world are you able to, this is supposed to be about getting to disclosure, getting truth, getting answers. I don't understand how whenever we have someone, you know, the new shining person, talking head person in the community is automatically by a lot of different people crowned as a king. Just like with the disclosure president, right? Because it said release UFO files instantly. Everyone's, oh, disclosure president, oh, he's the greatest. He's everything to disclosure. And then see what you got from that. Nothing at all. There's a lot of people in the community that jump right on that bandwagon and crown someone king. And I think that's dangerous. That's just like this person says in the thing. I'm surprised people in the comments below don't say Gerb is God. Wow, people really worship this guy. Gerb is this, Gerb is that. No wonder they believe everything that's paranormal. That's part of how we get viewed in the community, because you have individuals that as soon as someone comes out and is the new face, they make comments like this. And I think it's uncalled for. I think you're going too far. I think you're getting personally invested into someone that you don't know. That's not what this community is about. It's about us getting together, talking this stuff through, getting the answers, looking historically at what we know, trying to gather some sort of formulation on how to move forward. And some of that is done by getting information from a UAP GERB, getting information from a Lou Elizondo, getting information from a David Grush, getting information from others, getting information from experiencers. You can take a little bit of something from everybody, but I don't think there's any point in time. I don't think there's ever a point in time that we should be idolizing anyone. We should be using discernment and never idolizing anyone, including any person that becomes the latest talking head in our community. I think that is dangerous. There should be no such thing as picking sides. That's what causes the fighting within our community. It has to stop, and we should all be on the same side. There shouldn't be a team Lou Elizondo, a team UAP GERB, a team Grush. Because the moment that you do that, you choose a side, you're splitting the community in half. Then when the new person comes and your fans, now you splitting it into thirds. Once again, now you have segregated groups in the community that follow this guy or follow that guy. They hate this guy over here, when that's not what this is all about. You shouldn't be putting your personal emotion into picking one person or the other. You should just be getting information, using it in a way that you can, use it to kind of further your position on the subject, and kind of do that. Because I think everyone who's coming in is giving some nuggets. So a UAP GERB is going to be good in some of the things that he says. And yeah, you take some of those things that he says. So you have some good perspectives and ideas. You get a Lou Elizondo and you take the few things that you want to take from that. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff. That's where where you get into the drama. No more drama in the UFO community. That's where I'm at. And that's kind of where I wanted to end it because I think, I think we kind of laid it out, displayed what's currently going on in the UFO community. Hopefully we don't repeat this. Lou Elizondo said in his video that he gave Gerb his phone number before he even made these comments and said, hey, you could just call me. Well, I recommend Gerb give him a call, man. Just hash that out behind the scenes. Don't bring that drama into the UFO community. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. That's where I'm going to leave it. That's how I feel. Well, I don't take one side or the other. We are about true transparency for humanity, moving the needle forward. And I think everybody's valuable to the conversation. But, no more picking sides and idolizing any particular person. They're regular humans like you. Idolize yourself. Lift yourself up. Don't worry about lifting up other people that you may never meet, that you don't know, right? That's where we'll end it. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this because this is our science fiction and science fact movie of the week. I'm going to go ahead and drop that video for you. Here we go. All right, and our science fact to science fiction movie of the week is none other than, drum roll please, Disclosure Day. It is out on streaming platforms now. If you have not seen it, Disclosure Day is a science fiction thriller written by Steven Spielberg, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by David Cope, from a story by Spielberg. A television meteorologist, Emily Blunt, and a cybersecurity analyst, Josh O'Connor, become unexpectedly connected while pursuing the public disclosure of extraterrestrial life. They must stay ahead of a powerful government contractor, Colin Firth, determined to keep the secret buried. The story explores themes of secrecy, truth, and humanity's place in the universe, set against a tense global backdrop. This film features a supporting cast, Eve Hewson and Coleman Domingo, with the score by John Williams. You guys definitely should go and see that. As I said before, let me bring myself back up here. As I said before on this, the Disclosure Day film isn't such a documentary. It's not a documentary. I think Steve Spielberg recently said that. And I think that's a good way to put it. It's not a documentary on disclosure. And in Spielberg fashion, there is a little mystique, movie magic. So it isn't essentially what you might think or consider to be like a documentary style format where everything is just as you know it, right? But I think the bigger picture was that you have a whistleblower willing to take the secrets away from the government, not concerned about NDAs, bringing this out to the world. And I think that was the magic of this movie. And I think it's definitely something that you guys should consider going to see. That is our science fiction, science fact movie edition for the week. As we get ready to get up out of here, let me go ahead and get us ready to go. Silencing the whistleblowers, NDAs. We talked about that earlier. Make sure you go back and watch that as well. Another definitive UFO news show. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Consider subscribing today. Getting closer and closer and closer. If you're here for the first time or if you're watching this on Team Replay, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Please consider hitting that like button or dislike, as well as leaving a comment in the comment section. Because in order to get into that algorithm, I know people always talk about an algorithm, but it's true. YouTube wants to see interaction from the viewers with the show and the channel in order to kind of get us into the algorithm. So please consider doing that. Also, share. There is a share button right under the video, the little arrow. Click on it. It'll allow you to copy the link or post directly to your social media. Just take the link, post it to one of your social medias. Just say, hey, we had a great conversation here. Come and check it out. And then anyone, that you are friends with on social media that's interested in the subject, they could come and check this out on Team Replay as well. With that being said, we also have memberships available. Become a social soldier today. It helps us put these shows on, pay for streaming services and the things we have to pay for to even do this. So any help is appreciated, as well as super chat, super thanks. With that being said, guys, we're going to get ready to get up out of here. We do have a social Discord. You can find that link also in the description of each and every video. Other people from the community are there. It's a free service. Just click on the link. It'll take you in there to become a member. And it's like 24-hour conversations going on there as well. We have the phone number here. Once again, put this in your phone. 856-843-3444. Well, that's 856 the dig if you're outside the United States. 001 first and 856-843-3444. Well, that's 001-856 the dig. We also have other shows on this channel. The After Hours Radio Show, which, as I told you before, I'm out of the state for the month of August here. So for the next few Saturdays, we'll be doing a few pre-recorded shows. And then we'll be back with the After Hours Radio Show with live shows coming first week of September. Should be back in the state by then. Also, the Friday Night Live call-in show. I don't know where we're at on that. We should still have more episodes, but we're not getting a lot of people calling in. So we'll probably do another one. If you see it, call in, jump on stage, have the conversation, or else we'll kind of just put that on the back burner. With that being said, guys, it's been a great show. Let me go ahead and come back on screen here. All right. Silencing of the whistleblowers, the fight within. I want to thank you all for coming on out to the definitive UFO news show. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys tonight. Have a great rest of your night, guys. I'm out of here. Take care.